I am on my way to a meeting of the Sunrise Movement and DSA Los Angeles, and other groups joining will be Food and Water Watch and 350 SoCal. And we are going to be talking about some things that you may have read in the Los Angeles Times this week. The DWP board voted against procuring solar energy at 2 cents a kilowatt hour, which is the cheapest energy that there ever has been, because it pissed off Brian Darcy, who is the union leader of IBEW, that's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union, Local 18, which represents the DWP workers. And it's questionable as to whether they're opposing this power plant because they're opposed to it or because they weren't notified and they're butthurt that they weren't consulted. And I also heard from a source that that is a similar reason they were pissed off at Mayor Garcetti when he canceled the contract to invest money in 3 aging power plants. And you all remember this was a victory from this spring, and Aura Vasquez, who's running for city council, had a big hand in that. She was on the LADWP board of commissioners, and she was the lone voice voting against what looked like a done deal to approve that investment. And she went public. It was in the LA Times at great cost to her position. She ultimately ended up resigning from the board of commissioners because of it, because supposedly she embarrassed them, the mayor who appointed her. But it all worked out because he decided very quickly, much quicker than all of us thought he would do, not to spend the money on these plants. So everything was going well until we read a great article by Sammy Roth in the LA Times a few weeks ago about the InterMountain power plant. Now, the InterMountain power plant is currently a coal plant, and it is the largest supplier of electricity to Los Angeles. It's scheduled to close at the end of 2025. And the idea was LA's Green New Deal, having totally renewable energy, that's what we would have. But no, we read through Sammy's great reporting that they are going to be replacing it with a natural gas plant. And as we know, natural gas is better than coal, but it's still a dirty fossil fuel. And in fact, methane, which is what natural gas releases, is 84 times more potent a greenhouse gas than CO2. So all those people that try to tell you it's a bridge fuel, until we can go to renewable, are barking up the wrong tree, because it's actually more harmful. It stays in the atmosphere a shorter time, but that's the exact time that we're supposedly transitioning. Now, this article by Sammy Roth, he did a great job of showing how this coal plant has been the largest employer in this town in Utah, and it's been great for the economy, and without a power plant there, it's going to be really problematic. I like the story because it showed that there are two sides to these stories. You know, it sort of humanized what does this mean when something that we don't like goes out of business. They are saying, as a justification for building the natural gas plant, that they need the transmission lines to transmit, ultimately, the renewable energy into California. Also in that article, Sammy interviews some environmentalists like Evan Gillespie from the Sierra Club, Los Angeles, who says that is bunk. There's other ways to deliver the solar and wind power without having to use gas transmission lines. We're going to be having a meeting, and we're going to discuss our strategy. But one of the strategies has to be to figure out how to get labor on board, because this is absolutely ridiculous that labor, especially the Building Trades Union, who supports every refinery, every pipeline, and the IBEW, they actually were spending money against Eric Garcetti's Green New Deal. And they put a lot of money into the city council race in negative attack ads against Lorraine Lundquist, and were probably responsible for her loss in Council District 12. She was running against the only Republican on the entire city council, this guy who was the chief of staff to Mitch Englander, who resigned to be a lobbyist. And she was an environmental scientist and then a sustainability professor, and she realized that she had to do more, and that's why she ran for office. And they literally set up the Independent Expenditure Committee to run hit pieces on her, basically saying that she's trying to put people out of work. And this put me in mind of when I went up to Santa Barbara to canvass for their fracking moratorium bill, which lost because the fossil fuel companies were funding ads that said people would lose their jobs. And that was an absolute falsehood, because the ban or the moratorium was only on new fracking, not existing fracking. We have to talk about what's called a just transition. You see it in AOC's Green New Deal. You see it in Bernie Sanders' plan, which he released last week, which is the best of all of the current presidential candidates. So we're going to be talking about strategy and what we're going to do to try to mobilize the community to make sure that they don't build this new gas plant in Utah, and that they do build the solar plant. So before I go, I just want to tell you about a Zoom conference call that I was on at 5:30 today with the Sunrise Movement. And I have to tell you, this was one of the best organizing calls I have ever been on, and it was led by this 15-year-old girl named Lily. I tweeted that I was in awe of this girl because she was so poised, professional, and passionate. And everybody on that call, everybody leading that call, were teenagers. And they have such a incredible plan to mobilize for the global climate strike, which is on September 20th. And they decided the Sunrise Movement is going to join something that was already existing, which is this global climate strike, where everybody's not go to work, not go to school, and go out into the streets about climate change. And they made some excellent points about what their goal was on the call, which is to recruit new organizers, people who are not involved. They said, don't go out to your activist friends. They're already involved. We want to get new people. And their plan, and they actually did it on the call. They said, we're going to take 6 minutes while you do this. They had 700 people on the call, and they said, we want you to recruit 10 people to go on to get involved with the strike, and 1 recruitment leader. And the reason they do that is because then the recruitment leaders are then going to recruit 10 people to go on the strike, and it's going to multiply exponentially. They talked about what you could say when you called your people. They wanted to have a recruitment leader in not just every state, not just every city, but in every high school. This was what was so amazing. And the way they're going about doing it, I wouldn't be surprised if they make it happen. They were talking about, going to the map, finding an event to go to, and if there wasn't an event, to organize an event. So that's what they're doing, and I'm sure you can go on to the Sunrise Movement's website, Facebook page, Twitter account, and find out more about this. If you missed the call, they might have a recording for you to listen to. It's not too late to get involved, but it was really exciting because they got 150 strikes organized just on that call. So over and out, keep fighting, and share this live stream.